And welcome back into the live edition of the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes on today's show. We'll talk injuries, coaching stuff, since that's going to happen pretty much every day around Cowboy land for the foreseeable future. We will also preview Cowboys against Texans, which might not be a very fun game. Who you got in that matchup? C for the Cowboys, T for the Texans. It's always curious to see how things play out in the voting as the season goes on, when it becomes more and more of a lost year after they had a really bad performance against Philadelphia. I actually am a little bit surprised it's only 56% in favor of Houston. Cowboys are a home touchdown underdog, I guess touchdown plus right now, it's 7.5, which doesn't happen very often in the NFL. It is very rare to see a home team be a 7-point dog. This is kind of where you're at for the Cowboys season. Who you got? C or T? Whitey Palm says being realistic. T. Lion Plays 2 says T, sadly, which I think is how the majority end up feeling. You don't feel good picking the Texans to win in what, by the way, I think is going to be a home game for Houston, really. I think 75, 80% of the fans in attendance in that game are going to be Texans fans. Like, they're going to make the trip up, or they already live in Dallas anyway, and check out that game. So C for the Cowboys, T for the Texans. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Uncle Wilbo's got T for Tank in there. Nice. I like it. Jeff's got T. Joseph has T. Steven says Texans going to kick some butt. Noel says T because I have to. Yeah. That certainly tracks. Lux says C. Jeff says I pick Dallas every week and I get let down. Can't do it this week. Whitney says Tank for Travis. Hurt for Hunter. All ones that certainly work. Oren says Tank, and Mario says Texans. We'll see how that pin poll voting changes over the next hour and change here. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So if your lineups stay in play, even if one of your players gets hurt, if a player leaves in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Here is I consulted my boy Jack. We're on a bit of a heater right now. Monday Night Football Prize Picks slate. I have not seen a passing yardage less than as low as 184.5. I think I'm still going to take the less than because I have zero faith in Mike McCarthy right now. Joe Mixon, more than 86.5 yards. He's been a bit feast or famine. We'll talk about that later on in today's show, but Cowboys' run D has not been great this year. I do think they'll try to get some easy stuff for Rush with screens and stuff to Rico Dowdle, so I like the more than on the receiving yards there. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app. Use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, in weeks past, we've done who scores the first touchdown for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's change it. How do the Cowboys score a touchdown this week? Y for yes, N for no. I think they do. The way I phrase that is probably very disconcerting as Cowboys fans. William says yes. Jacoby says yes. Whitey says yes. Lion Plays 2 says yes. Andrew says CD is the first one there. My fans team would appreciate that a lot because I have regrets about some trades I didn't take, which I made such a time to say no, but now it's like, damn it. Food Review says Trey Lance goal line package. I don't hate it. They ran a freaking Cooper Rush read option 2 weeks ago, and he fumbled it. What are we doing out there? Let's see. Yes, no. Jeff says yes in the third quarter after the Texans starters are out. That's how you get there. I do think you're going to hang around for the first quarter, first half again like you did against Philadelphia, and then you'll just get outcoached and outplayed. or out-talented maybe is better way of phrasing that one. GKD Record says DC for life. To be honest, I dislike most of our fan base. Don't know what part, but the fan base is mad at everything. So we're all mad at each other as well, which I get. Thank you, GKD. Here is the super chat menu for today's live show. $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey. We'll wear it throughout the season on our watch parties. Shout out to you, Anthony McMillan. Do you want Bill Belichick as the next Cowboys head coach? There are pros and cons with every single head coaching candidate that you'll get into. That's why there's no guarantee you end up getting a good one. Even the Sean Payton one's like, yeah, he's great. You have to trade a first-round pick for him. Whatever. Do you want him as next Cowboys head coach? H for you'd hire him. P for you would pass. I think this will be it's a bit more divisive, which I understand, by the way. Jacoby says H. Luff says H. Ecuador says hell no. Jose says hell no. Duke says P. Cowboy Rob says pass. Eugene Robert says pass. Twitch Boy TJ says pass. Stubby says H. Toad French says H. Romeo says pass. Whitey says H. Dwayne and Mario say pass. There's probably better options out there. Not that Belchick's like a bottom 5 option, to be clear. But the first thing I'm asking Bill Belichick, if when I interview him, I guess the first two things is, how much control do you want? And if he goes, I want to be the GM, I go, okay, that's like, I would rather give it to Will McClay, because Belichick was not a great GM down the stretch in New England. He missed on a lot of opportunities there. My second question is, who's your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator? Because if he comes back with 2 out of 3 of Josh McDaniels, Joe Judge, and Matt Patricia, I don't want to do that anymore. I've seen how that goes. I don't want to go down that path. I don't think it's a great idea. I think you can do better. Now, will they do better? Who knows? But I think if that's the solution, I think you can do better. I trust him on the defensive side. But if you're going with a non-play calling head coach on offense, you better get that coordinator hire right. And I don't know about that. So do you want Bill Belichick as the next Cowboys head coach, Chris?
What are your thoughts on the Dan Lanning buzz out there?
I think that the Dan Lanning buzz is very real from the NFL side. I don't know how real it is from the Dan Lanning side of it. That's the Oregon head coach, by the way, who I think he's like 38 years old, and all he does is win. Not championships yet. I've been very impressed by Lanning, which I didn't know about that one as the Georgia DC. That's a pretty big jump from Oregon. No, they were right. They were right on that one. I don't know if he wants to go to the NFL. I think he's got a pretty good gig in Oregon. Plus, those college head coaching jobs pay more than most NFL gigs, especially for a Cowboys team that was paying Mike McCarthy among the least in the NFL, which probably shouldn't be overlooked. Now, the goal on every live Cowboys report is a 50% like ratio. We didn't even get to 69 likes on today's show. It's okay. Let's take advantage of it. Like the video if you want us to start today's show. Free, simple, easy, helps keeps the light on, which is getting more and more important since it's getting darker and darker earlier. I hate that, by the way. I hate the fact that I leave the office and it's dark out. It's stupid. Stupid dark early. Thanks, daylight savings time. Anyway, if you want us to start today's live show and have me not ramble about daylight savings time, like the video instead. Coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, we'll break down some news and rumors, coaching a big part of that. We'll have 2 different Texans previews. We'll put one out Friday, one out Monday morning. And we will also break down our mailbag. Get your questions in right now via hashtag Cowboys or by super chatting to skip the line altogether. So if you haven't already, get those hashtag Cowboys, which I saw some good ones that didn't have the hashtag Cowboys in there. Throw them in if you want us to talk about your topics on today's live Cowboys Report. Kicking off today's Cowboys Report with some conversation on Bill Belichick. Ben Rodgers had a really, really lengthy tweet on it, which I think was pretty insightful too. But he's not alone to suggest, hey, Bill Belichick might be the next Dallas Cowboys head coach. This has been a conversation for It'll have been it actually already is over a year right now. And it's not going to go away until the Cowboys end up hiring their next head coach and or Belchick gets hired somewhere else. Now, do you want a new head coach in 2025? I think this should be every single person. And if that is you, then show it by liking the video right now. There's no one really around the NFL who thinks that Big Mike is going to be making his return to the Dallas Cowboys. There are people who feel bad for McCarthy and others who also correctly point out it's not like he's done a very good job this year. It's a little bit of both in the end. But specifically for the Belichick side of things, there are issues here, both from his side, from the Cowboys side, from how I feel about it. But the biggest of all the issues is, how do you manage the egos? There's a very valid argument that maybe you need a little bit more powerful of a head coach to help mitigate some of the Jones boys stuff. But that is an argument of why you should hire them, not why the Cowboys could hire them. You get Bill Belichick in Dallas, somebody or both parties involved have to be willing to change their level of control. Does Bill Belichick want to coach under Jerry Jones, not have the general manager title, not have the de facto general manager power potentially with Will McClay kind of having the day-to-day pro personnel stuff, draft personnel stuff? Does Jerry Jones want to give up power and potentially credit if it works out, which is always a big deal for the Jones boys, to Bill Belichick if he hires him? Jerry didn't love having Bill Parcells overall. There was a lot of friction there. There would be friction between Belichick and for Jerry as well. There's also this part. Belichick was great when he had Tom Brady. It was not great when he didn't. To be fair, you get Dak Prescott back and healthy. That is pretty, by far, clearly the second best quarterback Bill Belichick would have had, both from 2-1 and from 2-3, to be clear on that front. There's pros and cons you got to figure out and judge. So do you want Bill Belichick as the next Cowboys head coach? H for hire, P for pass. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in H for hire, P for pass. I do want to mention this stuff too. I think that Bill Belichick, in not to make it sound like a negative scheming way, but I do think he's very deliberate with what he says and how he says it about different potential jobs that could be coming open, since it certainly sounds like he wants to be coaching once again. I think his comments have pretty clearly kept that door open for Dallas as a possibility. Here's been since he took some media jobs this offseason, this season I should say, public comments from Bill Belichick about the Dallas Cowboys. He had a lot of praise for Dak Prescott, which we've had for years, by the way. We can go back to the times he's played the Dak Prescott and the Cowboys previously. He also, I think this part's kind of wild, compared having to try to game plan for CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, having to do it for Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, which seems a little bit extreme, which is an understatement there. He said he thinks there's enough talent down there in Dallas. He thinks it's been a tough situation for Dallas this year, kind of like not being overly critical. And maybe most impactfully, made the comment that Jerry and Stephen Jones have shut out a lot of money to notable players in Dallas, which I'm sure was music to the Jones boys' ears on that front. All those public comments make it seem like, he's keeping the door open. Look, the Belichick rumors, conversations, theories, ideas, whatever you want to call them, they aren't going to go away. Because why would they? I mean, we can't even get the outlandish ones to go away. This one at least has some semblance of sense to it. I would be surprised if there wasn't at least a call between Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick to gauge the level of interest, what the role could be. Maybe it doesn't automatically become a finalist, but I'd be a little surprised if there wasn't at least some checking in between the two parties. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, from California, Florida, Georgia, to Texas. They also invented the Flex Play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. I'm doing the flex play for Monday Night Football. I got Cooper Rush less than passing yards. It hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Also more than Joe Mixon rushing yards and more than Rico Dowdle receiving yards. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is guaranteed, by the way. You don't have to win. You get it as soon as you play that first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's talk Ashton Jeanty here, the Boise State running back. He has again made public comments about his desire to play for his hometown team, the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what Jeanty said. If I had to script it, my family's all in Texas. I used to play in the Cowboys practice stadium, so family being there, all the connections, all the relationships, I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in. This is not a new statement from Ashton Jeanty. He's made previous comments about it in the past. He's from Frisco, so it's not a surprise that A, he's a Cowboys fan, and B, would like to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and probably makes suddenly more sense out there in the potential top 10 pick conversation. A lot of this comes down to the classic running back debate that I frankly just don't feel like having again, or at least not right now. This is going to be, I think, a pretty consensus top 10 prospect. He's not the biggest, and he's not necessarily the fastest, but he's got good size for being a shorter player, and it's not like he's slow either. There's kind of like some Aaron Jones to his game. It maybe is a decent comparison there. 7.7 yards per carry, not just against Mountain West teams. It's against Oregon, too. He is an awesome football player, but if you have concerns about the running back angle and the value of, well, it's a good class, you get one on day 2, maybe early day 3, well, no fourth-round picks, maybe not. It's a valid conversation. So do you want to draft Ashton Jeanty in round 1? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments of today's video. More Deion Sanders conversation for the Cowboys. Prime was asked by Michael Irvin on one of the Fox Sports shows about possibly being the Dallas Cowboys' next head coach, how he felt about it, what his overall thought process was going to be on that. And Deion did not waste much time responding. Deion kind of saw where Mike was going with that conversation and starts going, no. Oh, Lord, don't start that. I love it where I'm at. Now, that was a little bit performative, which is good for recruiting. That's how you do it. That's why he's a good recruiter and good salesman and good transfer portal guy. But I do buy most of this from Deion because he said it before. I think his style works so much better in college than it would potentially work in the NFL. But we spent a lot of time on this yesterday. On Wednesday's show, discussing the ideas behind it and where it's coming from. Very humorous for me to see Mike Greenberg saying, well, somebody wants to keep talking about this. Yes, Mike, your company does. All of this has been ESPN created. We do know that, right? So if you didn't check out that video, I go a lot more in depth on it. You can go check it out. The thumbnail looks just like that. Also, if you're subscribed and your notifications turned on, you got an alert for it. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. We are trying to beat our Texans channel in subs this week. They're kind of benefiting from that late finish to Sunday night, giving them some extra subs for this month, or for this week, but I didn't even catch them. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Athlon Sports also suggesting the Cowboys go sign Ryan Tannehill to, quote-unquote, salvage the season before it's too late. Here's the thing. It's already too late. Your season is over. The idea that you can get Ryan Tannehill in here, get him up to speed on the playbook in Thanksgiving, you're going to have 2 more losses probably. You're already out of this picture anyway. There's zero purpose. There's zero benefit in doing this. I don't need to sign another random old quarterback when I got one of those guys in Cooper Rush. I can let Will Greer be my practice squad QB, and I'd like to see more of Trey Lance in the first place anyway. It's frankly a laughable suggestion. I legitimately, I would rather bring in Ben DiNucci because at least he's young. At least he's an unknown other than a guy that has clearly regressed the past couple of seasons in with the Tennessee Titans, I should say. Monday Night Football. So will there be more Texans fans than Cowboys fans at AT&T Stadium this week? At least we're not going to deal with any sun because it's going to be a night game. So that's out of the way for at least one more week, or I guess 2 weeks because they're on the road against the Commanders the next week. Will there be more Texans fans than Cowboys fans at AT&T Stadium this week? Y for yes, N for no. Stubby says yes. Steven and Jacob say no. I think it's going to be a yes. I think there's going to be more fans there. I think that there's going to be more Texans fans in attendance. I think there's going to be a little bit more battle red than there is going to be the royal blue. Let me know in the comments. Y for yes, N for no. And also for Team Tank, that's not a bad thing necessarily either. Here is the Super Chat menu for today's show. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $500 for the custom Cowboys jersey. A couple Super Chats I want to get to here on the show, and we can re-hit them in the mailbag too. I think that's fine, but I do want to at least mention these because I also owe a shot for one of Dwayne's too. Dwayne Jackson, just curious, what players can you see will not be back in 2025? I think you've got guys that are firmly on the bubble of being cut. Guys like Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, Terrence Steele. I think Zach Martin's going to retire. I wouldn't be surprised if Tank Lawrence went to go play one more year somewhere else, or maybe 2 more years somewhere else. Brandon Cooks probably ends up leaving. We'll see about Odigizua. Maybe they bring back Rico Dowdle as like another option in the running back, which I actually don't mind that at all, by the way. You need somebody else too. I think you'll see, in general, you see a lot of turnover each year. But this year, you don't feel as bad about some of them. Also from Dwayne, with the Cowboys having potential close to $100 million in cap space in the 2025 offseason, can you see Jerry Jones using the cap space to fill needs? Or will the Jones boys use the excuse we have to manage the cap nonsense? The likely outcome is probably a little bit of both. That they get a little bit more involved in free agency than in previous years. They still don't spend the way that they should spend. And they'll use some BS of, we got that Micah Parsons contract. And then they won't pay Micah until August, if and when they do. Because that's how they always seem to do business, which is frustrating. They have a lot of money available. They are not really paying anybody right now. It's really long-term under contract. It's Dak, it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Trayvon Diggs, who you could also move on from if you want to. It's going to be a mistake, but I digress. You don't have a lot of actual money being spent right now. You're moving on from some of your other big contracts. The Zeke money's finally going to be off the books. Moving on from Zach Martin, from Tank Lawrence. You moved on from Tyron Smith. A lot of your other big contracts are now not big contracts anymore. You got to backfill those with other players. Cheers. Pug Racer, I like Jeanty round 1. A quarterback's best friend is an elite back. I actually don't agree with that. I think a quarterback's best friend beyond a great offensive line is, in general, having an elite playmaker. That would be CeeDee Lamb. That would be Travis Kelce in Kansas City. That would be still kind of a question mark in Buffalo, who that actually is for Josh Allen right now. That's probably Amon-Ra St. Brown / the Lions offensive line in Detroit. It's A.J. Brown in Philadelphia and that elite offensive line. So it's not, it can be your best friend, but I think there are other things that can also check off that box. Not Jeremy Chugs' burner. Season is over. It's time for Lance, Deuce, Flournoy. Yeah, I agree. Play the youths, as I call them, because I don't really need to get Brandon Cooks back out here. Right? Like, I don't need to see Brandon Cooks playing snaps. Like, I would honestly almost say, Brandon, thank you. We appreciate all that you did. How about you go play somewhere else? And we'll restructure some of your money, eat it, and let you go find a contender somewhere else. That actually, I think, might be best for all parties involved. Because when we get to week 15, do I really need to have Brandon Cooks playing a bunch of snaps? No, I don't. That's not fair to Brandon either. So you can maybe meet halfway there. Lenny, V23. If we end up getting a top 3 pick, you think Jerry would seriously consider taking a quarterback? No. I don't think that's going to be the path. Because it doesn't make any sense to have the $100 million dead money for Dak Prescott and then not get any benefits of the rookie contract scale whatsoever, when I think it's very clear your roster needs more talent anyway. I would be far more inclined to take Travis Hunter if I got him, or trade down and get extra assets for a team that actually does need a quarterback. Pug Racer, how do you feel about the wide receiver room next year? Looks bad. You need talent still. I would be surprised if you don't. If you roll in next year with Lamb, Tolbert, and Mingo, unless Mingo looks incredible out of Carolina down the stretch this year, I still think you need a number 2, and ideally someone with a bit more game-breaking ability than what you have on the roster right now. So I completely agree. Before we preview our Cowboys versus Texans Monday Night Football matchup, good old Jeremy Chuggs is the host over at Texans Today. This is your chance to troll Jeremy. We'll have some fun in-game things to troll him as well this week. Everyone type in F Chuggs in the comments. Do it all as one word so YouTube doesn't get mad at you. F Chuggs in the comments section. Cowboys are heavy underdogs this week. 7.5-point favorites as of filming this Thursday night. Over-under, similar to last week, 42.5. The Texans, statistically, are a little bit more of a league average-ish team. 17th in scoring offense, 19th in points per game. Score in points per game allowed. They have real issues. And much like Philadelphia last week, if your season hadn't completely fallen apart already, there's a real chance you would have been favored in this game. You were the early favorite, by the way, going in against Philadelphia. That changed quite quickly after Dak Prescott got hurt, but this would have been a winnable matchup. It doesn't feel very winnable right now, however. Some injuries to monitor throughout this week. Tyler Smith was set to practice on Wednesday despite his knee being wrapped, so we'll keep an eye on that front. Hunter Lipke has been banged up. Zach Martin, Eric Kendricks, and Nick Vigil have been banged up all year. Lipke did not practice on Wednesday nor Thursday, which is I hate because I want to play my young guys, and he's one of the young guys I want to play. Jordan Lewis has been a bit nicked up. Trayvon Diggs, I think, will be able to go. Sounds like Tyler Guyton will make his return to the football field. Hopefully Richards remains your swing tackle. I thought he did a good job against Philadelphia. And DeRon Bland also doesn't sound like he's going to be back. So that's not good. Over in Houston, Kamari Lassiter in concussion protocol. We'll see when he gets cleared. Will Anderson did not practice on Thursday. That'd be a big-time loss for Houston. That is the young superstar, dynamic pass rusher who's been so good for Houston. But he's nicked up. They still have Daniel Hunter at least. Damian Pierce making his return. Also sounds like most impactfully, Nico Collins is going to make his return after missing a bunch of time with his own injury for Houston. Let's talk keys to victory or defeat if you don't want to win. Then you want the opposite of these things. Number one is very obvious. You have to have better quarterback play. It is basically impossible to win football games in the NFL, in the modern NFL, and not going back to like the 1960s and stuff, when you go 13 of 24 for 45 yards and you fumble twice, especially in your own end. That's just not – that's non-viable quarterback play. For every position, outside of – not probably every position, you have to have a certain threshold to reach. And if you don't reach that threshold – doesn't matter how good the rest of it is around you, it's not going to work. And that did not remotely meet the threshold. You got to get something a lot better out of Cooper Rush. And as we'll get into, your coaching staff, Big Mike, has to be a heck of a lot better. Who you got in this one? I think I know how the majority are going to vote, and I agree with you. C for the Cowboys, T for the Texans. It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. C for the Cowboys, T for the Texans. Number two, key to victory. It's funny how it's flipped from 3 weeks ago, whatever. Your defense has to carry you. It has to. It has to be significantly better than what it has been previously, and more what you did see, by the way, in the first half against Philadelphia. The Cowboys defense did its job until the game was just too much for them to deal with the offense being as bad as it was. They played well early. Mike Zimmer's been trying a lot of different things. Sometimes it does work. Sometimes it does not work. The numbers got better outside of the rush defense because it got out of hand again last week from previous weeks. So progress is being made, but you still need basically your A-plus game from your defense to be competitive with the way the offense is playing right now. Now, of note, expect Houston to try to run the football a lot. They have not run the ball very effectively this year. In fact, they're actually less successful from a down-to-down basis than even you are with the ground game. They have not run the ball effectively this year. Their offensive line is a huge factor in that. They have not done a great job run blocking. They are allowing the third most pressure rate in football this year. They have gotten cooked a lot and on a pretty consistent basis. I expect them to try to run the football. They will try to establish that as what Bobby Slowick likes to do. I think the return of Nico Collins is going to be a big boost to that defense. We'll talk about him later on. But your defense, unlike pretty much every other matchup, your pass rush, if they can get into a position to actually get after the quarterback, they have some advantages there. Today's Cowboys Report is brought to you by Ollie. Clean, fresh nutrition for your dog in 5 flavors they will absolutely love. Right now, Ollie's offering a fantastic deal to let your pup taste test, a personalized meal plan. Get 60% off your first box of meals when you use promo code CHATSPORTS at ollie.com. Here's how it works. You fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz, and they create a customized meal plan. They then crunch the numbers and recommend the right recipes and daily proportions for your pup. For any first-timers, Ollie will send out your first pup's box with 2 weeks' worth of meals and a guide how to gradually switch them over to their new diet. They offer 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes. My dog Finn is a big fan of it, with myself, my wife both working, and my almost now 3-year-old daughter Olivia running around. He needs the energy to survive, basically. Head to ollie.com, at least thrive maybe. Tell them about your dog and use code CHATSPORTS or get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. That's OLLIE.com and enter code CHATSPORTS to get 60% off your first box. There's a clean bowl guarantee on their first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. Number 3, key to victory, let Rico run. I was very surprised to see the national media freak out over McCarthy saying Rico Dowdle is the lead back, and that was somehow new information. Not. He's been the lead back outside of when he was sick, week 1, and when Zeke complained about his role before the Lions game all year. He has been the number 1 back in touches and snaps by a pretty solid basis, actually. He's been getting over 50% of them more frequently. This is not a surprise. What you do need to see is him probably touch it more, not just play more. I will give a little bit of credit here. I have seen changes in the ground game. You might have noticed the Cowboys trying out some more pistol looks. That was a new implementation. But McCarthy hasn't really tried to run the football. In his last 4 games, Rico Dowdle's averaging 4.9 yards per carry. That's really friggin' good. But it's on only 12 carries a game. You have a backup quarterback in. You continuously get to here, seemingly freak out about your offensive line every chance you get. You have to try to run the football a little bit more. This is a different conversation than, we don't want the quarterback to have to lean so much on the ground game. Quarterback's not very good right now. You should try to run the ball a little bit more. Now, we will be live for the Cowboys and the Texans matchup this week. Hit that sub button. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV for more free Cowboys YouTube videos. Number 4, and this is probably not going to happen, and it's a big reason why I want Mike McCarthy fired when the year is over. Get a real offensive design and game plan. I acknowledge this probably isn't possible to suddenly do it. They've made some changes, like I mentioned, in the ground game. They have not made changes in the passing game. And Cooper Rush was bad. It was not all his fault. McCarthy's passing game his schematics, his game plan, it sucks right now. It does not feature anything pushing the ball downfield. It feels like this coaching staff is terrified of the offensive line, but it borders on phobia, where it's probably a little bit unrealistic. And I think what has happened, dating back to before Dak got hurt too, everything seems sped up and short, and it feels, and the lack of confidence behind the O-line, you can kind of feel it with the way some of the footwork is, especially with Dak, I think, too. It's trickled down to the players, where if you get hammered all week long saying, our O-line's not good enough, our O-line's not good enough, it's not good enough, that's going to impact how you play and what your trust level is in the offensive line. The passing game plan was about the same as it was against Philadelphia and Atlanta. That made no sense to me. Like, you have a new quarterback and you got to try different things. You have to utilize him differently. You have to maybe lean on your ground game a little bit more. This passing offense feels wildly outdated, and that's a failure of your coaching staff. It got good after the bye week because certain key members of your players in the organization kind of complained and got McCarthy to make changes. And then this year, the head coach fighting for his job said, I'm going to do what I want to do. And the results speak for themselves on the field. So what is your confidence level right now in Mike McCarthy? I will give you the option of 0. Let me know in the comments what your confidence level is in Mike McCarthy. Number 5, this is barely even a key to victory. I just want to see your young guys make some plays. And that's a variety of pieces for you at wide receiver, at tight end, Rico Dowdle, defensively with DeMarvion Overshown, etc. It is about 2025 and beyond. It is not about winning games. The 2024 season is cooked. It's not going to work out for you. It's over. It's done. You're not going to keep your job, Mike. Sorry. I want to see the young guys make some plays. I want to have something to build upon, even with a new coaching staff coming in next year, we all assume. So that's not even really a key to victory, but it is what I'm going to be hammering all season long. I'll get to my score prediction here in just a second. So if you haven't already, get your score predictions in for me in the comment section of today's video. I think this is probably going to be a bit more of a Texans home game. Plenty of Texans fans in Dallas. They'll travel up for the game. It's a primetime game. I think there will be more of a pro-Texans crowd than more of a pro-Cowboys crowd, which has happened before at Jerry World. I think you will hang. I think your defense will show up. I think they'll make some plays for you. Your offense can really only be better this week. I think you will hang around a little bit. Eventually, I think you'll be out-talented. You will be out-coached as well because Houston is better coached and they've got a way better quarterback and mostly better roster talent as well. So my score prediction, I got Houston winning and covering, for those of you who care. Final score, 24-13. It is mailbag time here on the Cowboys Report. Several ways to get on the show. Let's hit Mark's first super chat and Daily Llama 12's super chat. I guess second Mark super chat. The ones that aren't really mailbaggy related. But get your questions in. Hashtag Cowboys or super chat. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Whatever questions, thoughts, concerns you have. Detour says, Tom, being brave, thinking they will score a touchdown. Thank you. Mark, Jeremy, a.k.a. Little Bo Peep. I still have that photo somewhere of Jeremy in the Little Bo Peep costume, which was pretty funny. Mark, I will send your love over to Jeremy as well. We will have some chances to do some fun stuff at Jeremy's expense during Monday's watch party, by the way. Daily Llama 12, his super chat I want to get to, says, as a Boise State fan, fix your pronunciation. It's Ashton Jeanty, right? Jeanty. Previous videos I was definitely saying Jeanty, but I think today I was saying Jeanty, which I believe is how it is supposed to be. So that was on me for not looking up the pronunciation and seeing Gene and thinking that's how it was pronounced. So my fault, but Jeanty, I believe is how it's pronounced. If I'm wrong again, Daily Llama, just comment and I'll correct it. But thank you. I appreciate it. Get to today's mailbag. Get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or skip that line altogether with a super chat. We've got a super thanks from Tom's third kid, which is like the Thanksgiving sequel. We skipped right from number 2 and went to the third. I noticed last year that Mike McCarthy holds his play sheet in a way that the camera can see it. All his plays listed by down and distance. 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 1, down in yardage. He has no creativity based on how the game is going or what is working. Just goes off his little script. There was, I forget what game it was last year. You could like read the whole thing because they got an up-close look at it. And it is kind of sorted by like situations, which is fine. But that is exactly how you get into the forced play-action deep shot that never works for this team. I do agree the lack of creativity is very telling from this coaching staff. And that one came in via Super Thanks. It's a feature here on YouTube. Allows you to donate outside of live videos. You can edit your message, send in whatever you want to send in. Whether it's FU Tom, as long as it's not overly mean, we'll do it. Hit that little heart icon, edit your message, send in your super thanks. Reese's Football says Ashton, Jeanty, or bust. I don't know if you could ever be running back or bust. Like, I would acknowledge that for Travis Hunter. The season's not over yet, so I'm not going to finish my board or anything. I would safely say, minimum, he's going to be a top 10 player in this class for me. Now, does he finish 5? Does he finish 7? Is he 4? That's kind of up for debate. Travis Hunter's going to be number 1, barring something catastrophic. What you have to figure out is what the conversation should have been back in the Zeke Elliott, Jalen Ramsey draft, or even what we had with the Bijan draft. Is he the best player on your board? If he is, okay, you're drafting BPA there. Now, the value of the back is probably not as high as the value of an edge rusher. And if you have the same grade of an edge rusher and the back, you should probably take the edge rusher, just as an example. In this case, it's Abdul Carter from Penn State. If you've got a higher graded back and a lower graded edge, should you be taking the edge in that scenario? So I say that all to be it's not supposed to be a black and white conversation. It's supposed to operate in the gray world of everything. And there are scenarios, depending on where you're drafting, who's available, he'd be the best player on my board. There will be scenarios, depending on where you're drafting, who's on the board, that he's not going to be. And until you see how the draft plays out, good conversation, won't commit either way. So are you okay, and do you want to draft a running back in round 1? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, let me know. Or go vote. Y for yes, N for no. Mark, can't believe we could not trade Zach or Tank. Chances are they are gone. We could have at least gotten something for them. Same what happened with, I think you mean Cooks, not Coakley. 2 of those guys are hurt. And I think that was a pretty big factor in your whole conversation. There was also some pretty heavy financial incentives to not trade away Zach Martin. Brandon Cooks was the one that I would have really tried hard to shop to get anything back for because it frees up snaps for my younger rushers, especially if you traded for Jonathan Mingo. Like, what are you going to do when Cooks comes back? Who are you sitting between Mingo, Cooks, and Tolbert? Right? Tank, I think the injury was a huge factor there. Martin's got contract stuff that made disincentivized for you to trade him. But I do agree with the general philosophy of selling. Dwayne, what is your tier list for candidates, of head coach candidates for the Cowboys? We'll do a full video on that later this season / into the offseason. My number 1 guy is Ben Johnson. I don't know how likely it is he ends up getting hired because it's kind of not how the Cowboys tend to do business. If they want someone with head coach experience, someone like Mike Vrabel stands out to me. The downside there is, and Vrabel saw this firsthand, you have to get the offensive coordinator hire right. So now you're not just trying to get 1 coaching hire perfect. You have to get 2 perfect. That makes it a bit more challenging. There are several candidates that intrigue me overall. I just hope they do a real coaching search. We'll see what happens. Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Ollie. Clean, fresh nutrition for your dog in 5 flavors they will absolutely love. You don't have to be a vet to know that feeding your dog real, whole foods with minimal processing is one of the best choices you can make for their health. And right now, Ollie's offering a fantastic deal to let your pup taste test a personalized meal plan. Get 60% off your first box of meals when you use promo code CHATSPORTS at Ollie.com. With no harmful fillers and preservatives, Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world. A perfectly portioned, whole fresh food diet has been proven to extend your pup's life by 2.5 years. Who doesn't want more time with their best friend? I certainly want more time with my doggo Finn, who he's got a lot more gray around the face since we introduced baby Olivia, who's now almost 3 years old now, into his life. That's why we got him going with Ollie. Head to Ollie.com, tell him about your dog, use code CHATSPORTS, and you'll get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. That's OLLIE.com. Enter code CHATSPORTS to get 60% off your first box. They offer a clean bowl guarantee on their first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you can get your money back. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Past 2 drafts have been terrible. I don't expect all pros from rookies, but only our center showed anything. Left tackle was ranked like 60. All was just there. I don't know if he was ranked 60. I'm sure somebody did, but the consensus rankings certainly had him significantly higher than that. They kind of had him in the 30s, more or less. It was just the downside of where you were drafting. This year's class, I kind of like DeMarvion Overshown last year. I think we might be feeling a little bit better about it if one of your top defensive players didn't get hurt in Marshawn Nealon. BB's been up and down too, I think, this year. That's how a lot of it goes when you're drafting at the end of rounds. Mosman has been a pretty big disappointment so far. He was better last week, but the bar is still a very, very long way to go there. Luke Schoonmaker has been terrible. That's been real bad. He is barely playing at all for you. Junior Fehoko got cut, which is super frustrating. And when you don't address anything else except via the draft, it amplifies those misses. Mark says Tyler was a Shante Carver Pittman guy, a reach for need. I'd have BB at guard, Bass at center. Tyler moved to left tackle. That first-round pick could have been much better. Could have taken Graham Barton, like I wanted. He's been really good in Tampa, by the way. Bass also, I don't think really is a center. Like, try Hoffman at center, but I think you've made your picks on the offensive line. I would like to spend the rest of the year playing those guys where they've played. I saw Guyton get better last week before he got hurt, I guess 2 weeks ago. I want him to keep getting reps. He needs reps. Like, at this point, we can bemoan the picks all we want. That's totally fine. That's a safe space to do it. Don't get me wrong. But I want to see some growth across the board here. Mark again. I heard Jeanty is a generational guy. Is he that much better than the rest of the class? It's a deep running back class. He's the wide receiver draft week this year. He is not the best player in this year's class. In general, I don't like the word generational because I think it's thrown around way too often. Because how many times in every draft class is, this guy's a generational player? Happens seemingly every year. That's not what generational means. It would be like every 20 years. The guy who plays as a first-round caliber wide receiver and a first-round caliber corner, that is a generational player because that doesn't happen. Like, if Travis Hunter only played wide receiver, he'd be a first-round pick, a top 10 pick. If he was just a corner, he'd probably still be the best player in this class. That doesn't happen. Chris Gamble played both ways. He was really just a corner. Champ Bailey played both ways. Was kind of more just a corner. Miles Jack was just a linebacker. I haven't seen that guy in a long time. The receiver class, I think, has some depth, but it's not as top-heavy as necessarily some of the other years. Like, I like T-Mac from Arizona. I like Luther Burden. I wonder if those guys are more like fringe top 10 picks than clear-cut, locked and loaded top 10 picks. Brooks Jones. Thoughts on Deion saying he doesn't want to coach the Cowboys? I believe him. He said it before. Now, there was some showmanship mixed in there with the interview. It's fine. That's how you're supposed to do it. get the hype around your program. He's just doing his job as a recruiter. I don't think Deion's style, as he himself has said, translates that great to the NFL. The brand angle will always intrigue NFL owners, but I don't think he's a good fit at all for the Dallas Cowboys. So who do you want as the next Dallas Cowboys head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I'd say no wrong answers. I doubt we'll get many wrong answers, but there actually are wrong answers for this one. So keep that in mind. $5 super chat from GH24. Here's the one that happens. We suck with second round, so we trade back our second round pick for more third/fourth round picks. I like it. You could also trade your twos every other year and get an extra first round pick as an idea. In general, I like the idea of trading down. The NFL draft is, you will never, no matter how good you are, bat 1,000%. You are going to miss picks. It's going to happen. It's impossible to get them all right. There's way too many variables that you just can't control when it comes to what is a crapshoot. Now, it's an educated guess crapshoot, so I would like to have extra draft capital because I am more likely to find 2 quality starters in the top 75 with 4 or 5 picks than I am with 3 picks. That's just math and odds. If you want to be a part of our Cowboys mailbags now and into the future, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. Free videos every single day. $5 from Mark. I believe Stingley could have been traded at one point. We kept him and then he left. We have so many holes and he hit a home run round 1. Okay, so you're going back in the past. Okay, that's fine. I thought you meant someone this year. That's totally fine. I agree. You have a lot of holes. You need to hit round 1, home runs. We all knew when you drafted Tyler Guyton, it was a developmental player. Was the downside of maybe passing on someone who had a higher floor right now in Graham Barton. You hope he gets better as things go on, but you're right. When you don't address those holes in free agency, it's not just round 1 you need really good impact immediately. It's round 2, it's round 3, it's round 4, and that gets kind of hard to do because it's a bit of a crapshoot. Dwayne Jackson, why do the Cowboys have bad luck with drafted Michigan players? Look, talk about reaching on players. They reached on Luke Schoonmaker. That was a reach. They really, really wanted a tight end. Your head coach really wanted him, and they said, okay, we'll give you the tight end. They took the old hurt guy, who has been an old hurt guy in the NFL. Mozzie Smith has not developed the way you wanted to. The weight loss thing is still super weird. That's just unusual. And at this point, you kind of treat him as luxury more than anything else. To an extent, at least with Taco Charlton, you missed on the player or the person too. And that's unfortunate. Also, all those guys were back end of round 1 players. It's a bit different if you take someone in the earlier round 1 and never, ever, ever scout the helmet. It's just going to lead to failures because that's how you say you can't draft a Texas Tech quarterback. They've all been bad. That's not how it works. Caleb Charles, why not run a college offense like Broadus mentioned for Trey Lance? I actually did hear that from Broadus too. He makes very valid points. If you know what Caleb's talking about here. Run read options. Do some RPO stuff. Do play action vert shots. Use Trey Lance's legs. Run more of those 1-2, I'm scrambling type of stuff that you see a lot of colleges do. That's smart. That's what I would do if I were playing Trey Lance. That's not what Mike McCarthy has ever done. So it's a bad excuse. It's a bad reason. The reason is I don't think you have the play caller in place to do that. It's what you should be doing, but that would require Mike to make changes that he's been very reluctant to make over the course of his entire NFL career at this point. Who would you rather start at QB? TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Food review. You have pick 5. Trade down and get Jeanty and other picks. Go BPA or you go to the podium taking Travis Hunter. Shout out Josh Kelly from Texas Tech. Underrated. If I could get the number 1 player on my board at pick 5, as much as I love extra draft picks, I'm taking Hunter. I am plugging him in as my starting corner, and I'm going to deploy him on offense at wide receiver, 20, 25 times a game too. You know those 30 snaps Jalen Brooks gets a game on offense? They now go to Travis Hunter. And now, boy, you feel better about your offense, don't you? And you've got Diggs and Hunter and Bland for the short term at corner. You can trade one of them down line if you want to. Like, you're getting the best player. At 5, I have to do that. Now, if Hunter's gone and Abdul Carter's gone and it's, the tackles and Jeanty and maybe a Mason Graham in that conversation, I might start to look more at the trade down scenario at that point. It's a good question, Food Review, and once we figure out where the Cowboys will be drafting, we'll get to have those conversations with a bit more finality to them. This is today's Super Chat menu. $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, and $500 get you a custom Cowboys jersey. I will rock it throughout the entirety of the season for our watch parties. Shout out to Anthony McMillan for doing that so far. Before we move on to our final segment, and this is going to be a not fun question to answer. How many more games do the Dallas Cowboys end up winning this year? How many? Is it a lot? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 2? I don't think it's going to be a lot. I think you'll be favored against the Giants on Thanksgiving. I think you'll be favored against Carolina. And that might be it. That might be all you get. You might not be favored in any other matchup, and maybe you win one of those games you're favored. Maybe you pull an upset somewhere down the line, but feels like over-under is like 2.5, and that might be pushing it on the over-under. See, 1, 6, JK3, nice. 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 2 or 3, 1, 2. Let's see. What else we got here? 0. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not looking good. Over-under should be 2. I think that's like the right answer, but is it? But I don't like ties. Is it 2.5 or 1.5? Right? Dwayne's got 1. Ecuador Man's got 0. Brian's got 4. Joe's got 2. Ronald's got 6. Jose says I'll be that guy winning all of them but 1. Okay. Would be quite the turnaround. Say that. I wonder if you were to actually like honestly ask your players how many more games you think you're going to win this year. I wonder like what the actual answer would be. Like if you got like the lasso of truth around them. Hey, how many games are you going to win this year? Rest of the way. 2 would be I think would be like the most of the guesses there. And not just like the, I don't know. Vibes are bad. Keep the comments coming, folks. How many more games do the Cowboys win the remainder of the season? We'll be live for Cowboys versus Texans on Monday Night Football. Our stream will start at 7 p.m. Eastern in time for the 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Do not miss out. We will have some fun giveaways. We'll have some fun things to do and poke fun at Jeremy Chugs in the process. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Cowboys are, again, heavy home favorites against the Houston Texans. The vibes around the Cowboys are not very good, and certainly who can blame the Cowboys as a result there. They are a bit banged up at the current moment. Tyler Smith practicing for Mike McCarthy with his knee. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. We're putting this on our Thursday live show, so the full injury status designation will be in the comments in the description of today's show. We'll keep an eye on Hunter Lipke. We'll keep an eye on Tyler Guyton. Vibes are he's going to play. Does not sound like you're going to have Deron Bland, which sucks because we are a month beyond now from the last time he practiced, and that's concerning because he clearly had a setback there. Houston getting some key players back. Nico Collins is back with the hamstring injury. Damian Pierce can be the backup again. Is coming back from his groin injury. See about guys like Kamari Lassiter and Will Anderson, but relative to the overall rosters, certainly seems like Houston is a healthier team at the moment. Let's talk matchups to watch in this one. And I want to begin with Mike Zimmer, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, against Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator. And there are moments of stuff I really like out of Slowick and frankly even out of Zimmer. I think both guys have been hamstrung by things they didn't think were going to be massive issues this year. Injuries for Dallas and hurting their pass rush. Texans offensive line has been a disaster, as we'll get into here in a little bit. They've allowed the highest pressure rate in football this season. And as a result, C.J. Stroud has regressed this year. He has not been as good, a bit of a sophomore slump for the talented young quarterback. But of note, since entering the NFL last season, Stroud has the third most passing yards on intermediate throws, 10 to 19 yards. And this season, about a quarter of them have been in that range, which is the sixth most in football. The Cowboys are allowing the most yards per attempt on those exact throws because your safeties haven't exactly delivered the way you would like them to more often than not, and you've had cornerback injuries and pass rush issues. I would expect to see a lot of digs out of C.J. Stroud and the Slowick-led offense, play-action shots, and I think they'll try to push the ball downfield a little bit more this week. So what is your confidence level in the Cowboys beating the Texans? Scale it from 0 to 10. That's why we're adding 0 as an option because the vibes are bad. Go vote the pinned comment, especially the outcomes here on YouTube. Next matchup to watch it is Trayvon Diggs against Nico Collins. And this assumes Collins plays, but that certainly is the expectation coming out of Houston. Although Diggs is a not good tackler, coverage has actually been pretty solid so far this season for Trayvon Diggs. He's actually done a pretty solid job this year. A couple touchdowns allowed, one of which probably wasn't his fault for Diggs. 7 pass breakups, a couple interceptions, had a really nice one. The only time I got started against Philadelphia, teams have realized, hey, let's not pick on Trayvon Diggs. I don't know if Zimmer will have Diggs shadow Nico Collins. That is probably easier to do this week than it was last week against the Eagles, where they had Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. But Nico he's getting healthy, was averaging well over 100 yards per game. He's only played the first half of the fifth game. He is one of the better wide receivers, too, in the NFL. So we'll see if Izzy Mukwamu gets some playing time. But Diggs and Collins, certainly a matchup to watch. Number 3, it is the Cowboys' offensive tackles against the Houston Texans pass rush. Anderson's banged up with an ankle. We'll see about that. Danielle Hunter is a really good football player. Tyler Guyton has been banged up. We'll see. It sounds like he's going to go. I'm curious how D'Amico Ryans deploys and where he lines up Hunter. The Texans have good passers. I think they're missing one more interior presence there, so it should be a little bit easier on some of your interior offensive linemen. But Hunter's a bad matchup for anybody in the NFL, let alone a rookie left tackle and a right tackle that, even when he plays well for his standards, still gets beat like 3 times a game in pass protection. So it's going to be a very challenging matchup once again for your offensive line, and a coaching staff that is already scared of them probably won't inspire confidence. Prize Picks has helped make today's Cowboys Report possible. They are the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys ends up getting injured. If your player leaves in the first half, does not return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. The flex play means you can get one wrong and still cash out. This is me and my boy Jack Lotteray cooking it up together. Monday Night Football Prize Picks slates. I got Cooper Rush less than passing yards. Sorry. Joe Mixon more than rushing yards. You guys know it's sound strategy, even though it might hurt a little bit. And Rico Dowdle go more than receiving yards as well. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's just flip it for number 4. The Texans' offense tackles against the Cowboys' pass rush. In particular, Micah Parsons, who has been awesome so far this year when he's been healthy. Up to 3 sacks, 3 TFLs. Looked really good against Philadelphia after maybe a bit of a slower start to open the season. Has an 18.2% pressure rate. That's really good. The Texans allowing the 3rd highest pressure rate in football this year. Laramie Tunsil has only allowed 11 pressures. He's got 14 penalties this year. That is penalty boy number 1. So maybe Mike can actually draw a holding flag for once. How about that? Titus Howard, by the way, 22 pressures allowed this year. A lot of interior O-line weaknesses. Don't be shocked if the Cowboys put Micah over the guards a little bit in this matchup. And then we'll flip it again on from 2 to 5 and 5 to 2. Cowboys' number 1 receiver, CeeDee Lamb, against Derek Stingley. Now, Stingley doesn't travel a lot. He hasn't had many slot snaps this season. But you have to get CeeDee Lamb the ball. And I mean for more than just like 3 yards per catch. Or 5, whatever it was. His average per catch dropped by a full yard last week. You know how hard that is to do in a football game? It's insane. Lamb is a dynamic football player. Get him the ball. And a little bit more downfield, too. You know, it can't be all short stuff. One bright side, it's a night game. There will be no sun to block him from seeing the ball as it's thrown to him on a scramble drill in the end zone. So do you think the Cowboys score a touchdown this week? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote in the comments section of today's show. For the rest of the season, because your year's over, barring some miracle comeback run here, I'm going to focus my players to watch on young guys. I don't care about the old dudes. I don't. Let's see the youths play. Sounds like Jonathan Mingo is going to play against the Texans on Monday Football. That's been what Mingo said, what Mike McCarthy said. I want to see how he's used because I think his best role is more of a power slot, like how Ole Miss used him as almost as a slot receiver, a big slot receiver. Will Dallas do that? He's at his best on kind of crossing routes, digs, where he can get the ball and run. Or are they just going to put him outside and send the occasional go ball? I don't know. I want to see how he gets played because, frankly, I don't need to see Jalen Brooks get snaps. I need to see Jonathan Mingo get snaps. Number 4, you saw Israel Mukuamu get subbed in for Kalen Carson late last week. I would bet the Cowboys put Izzy on the outside again because Kalen Carson just doesn't have confidence right now. And it shows. He's not a confident tackler. He's not confident in coverage. This is one of those you should probably sit him so the confidence isn't completely cooked. And that's, for a 5th-round pick, is actually more reasonable than, like your 1st-round pick who is raw. Has to keep playing. Looking at you, Guyton. Carson, sit him down. Diggs, Lewis, and Mukuamu should be your corners this week against the Houston Texans. So with that in mind, focusing on the young guys, the youths, name a player you're watching against the Houston Texans. Drop that player name or names in the comments section. Got my eye on Jake Ferguson. Random stat of the day. No Dallas Cowboys tight end, has ever caught a TD pass against the Houston Texans. Weird but true stat. Jake Ferguson has not been the same player this year. The guy we saw in the back half of last season hasn't showed up. His average target is down significantly. His yards per catch is down. He hasn't been as dynamic after the catch. I think he is a bit banged up, but he'll fight. He'll compete. But the play has been a bit of a disappointment for Jake Ferguson. I would like to see that get going a little bit. Number 2 is Mozzie Smith. Now, I have adopted the 2025 strategy of I cannot trust Mozzie Smith. I have to find additional defensive linemen. He can change that by playing some great football in the back half of this season. I will say, acknowledging the bar is super low, I thought that game for Mozzie Smith against Philadelphia was his 2nd best game of the year. The Giants game he was actually straight up very good in. This one he was actually a serviceable defensive tackle. Now, I need more than that from my 1st-round pick, but that's a couple different games this year. We've at least seen something positive, and I am being positive on this front because the results have just not been very good overall. But I need to see a lot more of that or else 2025, for the only DT under contract, you treat him like he's not a playable player. Number 1 is DeMarvin Overshown. I wish this was Trey Lance, but they're going to start Cooper Rush, so is what it is. Overshown's been electric this year. And I do wonder how we would have felt about last year's draft class going into this year if Overshown had been healthy. He still has tendency to kind of overrun plays a little bit, but he can blitz, cover. He is consistently flying around the football. He sees it and goes. I think we are very much on an upward arc right now with DeMarvin Overshown. And if you get real, actual NFL front four players healthy in front of Overshown, I think you've got Pro Bowl or better potential in your young, athletic linebacker. We got C for the Cowboys, T for the Texans. Let me know in the comments of today's video. Who you got? It is the pin poll, by the way, as well. 62% voting in favor of the Texans. Can't say I disagree at all, by the way. Is a bad group? The unfortunate reality is this is a not good football team that is injured and is poorly coached. And you get all those three things together, you got a bad team. Bad team. Mark! Losing is good news. We got a top 10 pick, get back a lot of injured guys. JJ might get humbled, get a good coach, and shut up. We can compete in 25. I completely agree. You will have a chance to do a very quick turnaround. You're going to get guys healthier. You're going to have a top 10 pick. You're going to have lots of salary cap space. You're going to be off of a lot of your bad contracts, so to speak. They're going to be off the books. You will have a new coaching staff. You have the potential, at least, to be a lot better next season. We don't wife these 304s. I want Gruden to be our coach. Will that make you feel nicey there? We don't wife these 304s. Gruden's an ultimate wild card. I don't know if you can go back down to him. I'll say this in general about Gruden. I think it's very weird that the NFL investigating Washington led to Gruden getting fired. Don't know how that makes sense. I still think Dan Snyder leaked those emails. I still think it was Dan Snyder trying to keep the heat off him. He did sign a contract with Barstool. He is super entertaining. He knows football. If it weren't for the scandal, he would still be coaching, probably. Some of the things you run into with Belchick, though, you can run into with Gruden, because allegedly, Gruden had control of the first-round picks in Vegas, and Mayock had the day 3 picks and day 2 picks. And those first-round picks for Gruden, boy, they were bad. They were bad. But he can coach. So it'd be a dangerous wild card. Let's put it that way. But it'd be probably better than Mike McCarthy and better than Jason Witten. So we will be live for Cowboys against Texans. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV, and we'll see you guys then.